Okay, I think I figured out what's wrong with why you put those in the video manager. It's the same problem as yesterday, but also we want to, right, okay, I redid one of the videos, but it wasn't, but also we didn't preface it with what we said yesterday. But the point of the hood is that that guy, Dr. Med, he said this is the second time he made a comment about this fact that I have like my like his hair sort of sticks up or something, and since he's like in your thing, like I thought maybe like he's saying like you look like crazy on the video. Oh, who the hell knows? I just self-consciously put this up. Okay, right. What we didn't preface that with is this. Okay, right. People need to understand because it's frightening to people, especially like Jewish people in America, what this intense wave of the level they know, and it's in books, it's talked about in the newspapers, that the level of anti-Semitism throughout Europe has not been at this level since the before the rise of Adolf Hitler. That's of my own, I mean, that people are very concerned about that, and they know about it. They speak of it as the new anti-Semitism. Of course, they don't know why. They don't know why. What I say, of course, I mean because like these sort of social science crowd that in our country that is studying things like why social phenomenon happen, look for psychoanalysis answers. And they find nothing there, like looking for something irrational or something psychological going on. Okay, so or that it has something they don't know. Okay, they don't know, and they need to know because people need to become aware of what that's about. But people in Europe, unlike that's a highly educated population. Okay, so the fact that anti-Semitism is at that level, it's not, the people need to understand what kinds of things are in people's minds. They also know there's hate groups all over the country that hate Jews. But the thing is, as I understand it, the Jews in our country are much more frightened. They can write that off as like, well, I guess it's like uneducated people in the woods or something, or they hate, they can write that off somehow because of certain things. But they're really terrified of why the level of anti-Semitism in Europe and the fact that, as we've said, like governments that you wouldn't think like are seeing themselves as like in having a relationship to like repressive Middle Eastern countries, and what they share is they sort of hate together. They hate Jews and they hate America. Well, it's important to clear up what kinds of things are in their minds and what can we do here to like prevent that, since we don't want that to be that way. We don't want to, and particularly Jews in America don't want people thinking in those ways. Okay, it's okay. And what we said in the other video, but I didn't preface it with this, is that what they know is that this issue, how it fits into this issue of healthcare in our country. Okay, we have 50% of the population simply does not want. They want to repeal the small amount of healthcare we've gotten so little kids can get medicine and stuff. But the idea of even having the mindset to move towards national healthcare is not something that we simply, at least 50% of the population simply doesn't want that or doesn't think that's logical. And the other part of the population sort of doesn't know how it could happen, or is arguing about it or something, or thinks it looks like something that might not happen. Okay, here's the thing. Part of things that people are aware of in places in Europe, people are highly educated, is they know a lot more than the people in our country do, it seems. But you can learn it if you want to read more about the Nazi intellectuals and the thought of the Nazi intellectuals. Okay, it's great to read about the battles of like World War II or something, the most brutal war in human history. But to read the Nazi and what was going on with the Nazi intellectuals and things, we learn something, okay, about what's happening. Here's the thing, and you start to understand something, okay. There's a lot of literature on how the Nazi intellectuals. The question comes up: did they perceive? There were theologians in the Nazi Party and things like that too. Like, did they perceive that there was some dimension of what they were doing that was a Christian movement? There are some books about how the church itself would view such things. There's a book called Twisted Cross that sort of addresses like how simply the church person views such a thing. But theologians and in the Nazi Party and Nazi intellectuals, to what degree did they think they were having a Christian movement when Adolf Hitler came to power? Okay, and that was part of that. There was a Christian movement. Well, part of it is this. they perceive like our society, where that to perceive your society as an organic whole, where you care about the well-being of other people, where you care whether or not that everyone can bring their children to get their leukemia medicine. That the idea of national health care, which was a big part of the Nazi program, where does their anti sort of Semitism fit in? The slogan was "Away with the Old Testament." Away with the Old Testament. The Jews and their Old Testament and their materialism. Like, we want to have to be They believed in what the German word referred to primitive Christianity, meaning Christianity like these are the Nazi intellectuals and theologians. Christianity prior to being in the long history before it was institutionalized by the church. There was a relatively long period where there were simply people who followed Christ's teachings, okay? And they were saying away with the Old Testament, return to and the church is reactionary, but we want our movement to, it's kind of a Christo-pagan movement. They were the sort of the tradition and nature and all that and everything, but they want if you read a book called The Holy Reich, you find out it's fascinating. They say away with the Old Testament. We want to have a movement where we care. The line from the national speeches on National Socialism, that we are responsible for our part of each other. Each man or woman is, of course, responsible for themselves, but we're responsible for our part of them, whether we've helped to lift them up or drag them down or made them things easy, whether we've helped or whether we're responsible for our part of them. We're all one unified field of energy. We're responsible for our part of them. That was a big part of the ideology, and that's why there were many like theologians and things, okay? Then things like national health care and building an economy together where everyone could prosper or at least be eating, but certainly a program of national health care, okay? That we are a society that doesn't even think half of us don't even want to have the mindset to move towards national health care, okay? People are perceiving, right, America, and there's an incredibly large population of rich Jews in it. There's apparently there's an Israel lobby. There are people there are very. It's apparently it's coming back that these people, they don't even care about having a national healthcare system. They must not have evolved since the Stone Age in their thinking. They're just materialistic and brutish. They don't care if I mention all the time in my videos that the guys, what happens if someone gets sick here? They don't have $10,000 for their wife has a heart attack or something, is in the hospital. Here we don't care about that. Okay, that's the things that are getting people interested, and why in Europe because people know that about, and people are getting interested in the thought of the National Socialists. That's not what we want. Okay. But first we have to learn what civilization is like and what the mindset of civilization is like to prevent that from happening or from being perceived that way.